Kaya. Have you ever misgendered somebody? Or maybe you just got their name wrong? For a lot of us, being on the other side of that is a very common thing in our lives. But I would like to speak about why we go to identifying people upon seeing them instead of upon speaking to them. For example, when you do misname somebody, you've got a new friend you've just met, you call them James, but the name is actually John. Not a big deal. They say, oh, it's John. You say, oh, no worries. When somebody corrects you on their pronouns, it becomes this uncomfortable, awkward, strange situation. Everything is gendered in our world, especially because we do live in a heavily modernized and colonized society. Literally, the second you are born, they slap an M or an F on your form, and you're almost branded like a cow in livestock. And for someone who has no gender, it's very confusing. I am actually a trans, non-binary, Aboriginal person. And I think this kind of issue of wrongly identifying somebody because you've looked at them doesn't just stop at gender. It very much is a huge part of being a proud Aboriginal person in light skin. It's even a problem within my own community sometimes, between myself and mob. I carry with me every day the privilege of being a light-skinned Aboriginal, because we all know that for our darker-skinned mob, that it is harder out there. But you feel this sense of disconnect from your culture and from your kin and from your mob. And it's the same when you go out into a gendered world, not feeling like you have any gender. It's an extremely harmful feeling, and it can come to life in many different ways. Let me kick to you a scenario. This kind of helps other people when they feel confused about this topic to understand a little bit about what it feels like, because you can say to someone, well, how would you feel if your name is Rose and I just called you Claire all the time? And it's like, it's not quite the same thing. It's more like if your name is Mia and someone calls you stupid every single day, because it really is that hurtful. And it's so much more hurtful when it's in every single aspect of your life, whether you ask for it or not. I'll be getting a coffee and they'll say, who was next? And the person next to me will say, oh, this lady here. When I'm not even asking for it or speaking to this person, they will gender me anyway. This kind of need to identify people based on their presentation is very strange to me now that I've unlearned this behavior. Because identity and presentation are two different things. Your identity is who you are, and how you present is simply just how you look. After I had come out as non-binary, because if you're gay, you do have to come out a few times until you figure it out. I had cut all my hair off because I thought if you're going to come out as non-binary, you need to look more like a boy. You need to cut your hair off, you need to start wearing button-downs, you need to go buy some men's pants, preferably cargo pants. And I did. I absolutely did. And I just had this feeling like if I come out and nothing changes about me physically, no one's going to know, because no one's going to ask. And obviously I did my big Facebook post and I told everyone in my life, and then I felt comfortable enough eventually to go on a date. And I went on this date, and I was kind of going on dates with this person for about 2 weeks. We were having a beautiful time, getting to know each other and like bonding, and it felt very close and beautiful. And I just grown this real interest for this person. And maybe it was because the rose-tinted glasses in the glasses of wine, but that's irrelevant. The point being, I was on a date 2 weeks in. We went out to the restaurant, we sat down, and I don't know how this hadn't come up before. Maybe I didn't notice it, but this was when I did, is the waitress comes up and we'd agreed that we were gonna share. So this person ordered for me and said, oh no, she and I are gonna share. And I just remember like my heart dropping to the bottom of my stomach and me looking at this waitress and this waitress looking at me, and I could just see in her eyes that she was looking at a woman because of what this person had said. And I felt like someone was identifying me for me, and that hurt even more. It just made me realize that this person who I thought I was getting to know didn't actually know me at all. And then I realized it's because they didn't bother to ask, and they didn't bother to really understand. They didn't bother to actually identify me. And that's just the beginning of my toxic relationships. But should have been a red flag, wasn't. Moving on. And it's these things that happen in our lives as trans and non-binary people that make us sometimes almost want to go back in the closet. I did not grow up as a trans non-binary person in my life. I did not know about trans and non-binary people. I had to learn these things as I went. I had to educate myself on how to be who I was, and how to be who I was safely, and how to support other people who were like me safely. And you might be asking yourself, well, how can we learn these things and what are we going to do? Because I know that sometimes when you bring these topics up with people, it can feel really hopeless. Think about how uncomfortable and awkward and inconvenienced and confused the other person is compared to your uncomfortability to support them. I had a really interesting conversation not too long ago with one of the Noongar aunties in my community, and I was talking to her about gender identity and about my identity as a light-skinned Aboriginal. And she said some things to me that I didn't realize I needed to hear all my life until she said them. But I think it's something that anyone can apply, and it's something that I think everyone needs to hear. And I think there's a lot of parts of Aboriginal culture and spirituality and belief that can apply to the wider world in order to make it a better, safer place. But my friend and Noongar auntie told me, when I was speaking about my gender identity, she admitted that she was confused. She admitted that she didn't understand how that works or how to be safe around that. And we kind of talked about this, the back to the bare bones of Aboriginal spirituality and spirit connection. The Aboriginal cultures around Australia have very strong spirit connections to the land, to animals, to sea, to sky, to everything in our universe, but most importantly, to each other. And she told me it really does not matter what tone your skin is. You are mob, and you are Aboriginal. And the same thing can be applied to your gender identity. She said, I don't care that you are trans non-binary. I think that's a beautiful thing, because what I'm connecting to is your spirit, and you as a spirit, and you as an entity, and you as a person. In Aboriginal culture, trans people are referred to as brother boys and sister girls. And so I asked her, well, where do I fit in? Because I'm neither, so is there a word for me? And she did say, unfortunately, there isn't, but there will always be a place for you. And I think this idea of treating each other as spirits and as entities and as people instead of as objects to identify by looking at them like a piece of furniture or clothing or art is something that we can all take away with us. Some fundamental ways that we can do this is, I've seen a lot of people around in the audience with their little pronoun badges. That's a great way. We love the pronoun badges. Putting your pronouns out into the world, even if you are cis, is an amazing thing to do because you're showing the world that you understand that pronouns exist, that there are different pronouns across the world, and that you are open to discussing that. And that's already a safety point. Anything visual that can show us that you are a safe person is the best. If I see someone driving by with a flag on their window, or someone walking by with Aboriginal artwork on their work lanyard, or someone sends me an email and they have their pronouns in their little email signature, those little things show us that we are not a burden to you. I am constantly surprised, and it definitely might not extend to this room, but I am constantly surprised by how little education people have on things like pronouns, on things like identity, about gender and sex and the difference between the two. For just a very tiny example, I remember I was at a club once, straight guy walks in, comes up to me and my friends and says, "Hi," and we were like, "He's straight, we're gonna mess with him." So we said, "Hey man, what are your pronouns?" And he said, "I'm not gay." I said, I can see that, but that wasn't what I asked. We are constantly being surprised in the new ways that, that people are confused by our existence. And you can laugh about it, but ultimately, I think it's important that we do learn these little things, and you're going to build beautiful connections. I have never known a love and a community and a passion and a pride like the queer and Indigenous communities. It is beautiful. And from that, you will learn so much about yourself. I didn't always know this about myself. I just thought that I was different. Some days I might look like this, and some days I might absolutely rock a suit, but it's the importance of removing what you see from what it is. And I think when you look in the mirror next, ask yourself, how do I identify? What do I see here? What are the assumptions that I'm making about myself just by looking at myself? Like, you can test it on yourself. I would look at myself in the mirror in this outfit and definitely be like, a little bit gay, but also like, female? But who told you that? Who ever said, in this world that we live in today especially, that anything that you see equals who they are? So ask yourself those questions. Ask others those questions. Because these questions and this act is a practice of life-saving behavior. And you never know, you might just save someone's mind that day from going to a dark place. And I think as trans and non-binary people, we need more of that because we deserve to be here and exist comfortably, safely, freely, just like any other person would want to. So, thank you.